Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mally Jones. Welcome to another virtual edition of Friday with the Family, hosted by the OSU Alumni Association. Today, we have the Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. Doug Hallenbeck. So, thank you for joining us today.
Wonderful. Glad to be here.
And before we get started here, I want to remind everyone that you guys can submit questions if you use the Ask a Question button on the ALC webinar service, or if you're watching on Facebook Live, then you can just put your comment, or you can put your question in the comment. All right, so we are now 2 weeks into school. How has the start of the semester gone compared to what you were expecting?
Well, we spent so much time ever since really spring break until classes started this fall, planning and preparing and worrying and coming up with all different types of scenarios. And I can honestly say, I think we have started the semester as well as could be expected. I think we are as prepared as anybody in the country to be here. And overall, I think it's gone extraordinarily well.
Well, overall, everything looks quite a bit different. So, for the learning environment specifically, how is that looking for students this semester?
I think it's obviously different, and we have different type of models out there in the classroom. We have social distancing in place, so everybody's at least 6 feet apart, all 360 degrees around. So we have a lot more spread out. We have classes in places we've never thought we'd have classes, like the Colvin Annex and the Student Union Ballroom and places like that allowed us to spread out. And then everybody's wearing masks. And so I think that's, even in class and to walk around campus and buildings, everybody's wearing masks. So I think that's obviously different as well. And then we have some online, some hybrid models that are online and in person, and then some that are just all in person. So, the learning environment, it's different, and it's not quite the same as it's always been. But I think once students kind of get into it, it's learning and it's class and it's college. And so I think most people roll with it pretty well.
Well, clearly, everyone has been working really hard to take precautions and make this campus as safe as possible. So, what policies are in place for on and off campus for students to mitigate these risks?
Yeah. The biggest thing, as I mentioned before, is really just wearing masks. And I think wearing masks, we required in our buildings, we required on campus if you can't socially distance outside. But we had encouraged students, faculty and staff, to wear your mask everywhere. It's an ordinance, a requirement in the city of Stillwater. So we have that. But just when you're out and about, the more that we can wear masks, the better off we're going to be. So that's a big part of it. We're also asking students, faculty, and staff to self-monitor their own health. And so check their temperature every day, make sure that if they're feeling sick, they don't come in, they don't go to class, they don't go to work. So that's another area where we've been able to mitigate it. Again, with the classrooms been able to space out, we've limited the number of activities and events that we're having on campus. So we don't bring large groups of people together. So we're doing a lot more things virtually, or we're just not having events. We reduce the number of common area spaces where people can congregate in housing. We've done that again also in the student union and our dining areas as well. We've worked with our fraternities and sororities to do similar in the fraternity and sorority houses. So all those things combined, I think, are the measures that we're putting in place to help people be safe. And then just, again, reminding folks to avoid large gatherings, whether people aren't wearing masks, aren't socially distanced. And so that, don't go out to events that where that's going to happen, where there could be a large scale spread. So all those different things that we're working with folks. We have a COVID-19 email address. If people have questions or concerns, they can reach out to us and we can answer them. We get everything from, what's the process if I can't go to class, working with my faculty to, I saw so-and-so and they weren't wearing a mask. What are you going to do about it? And so we get all those types of things, and then we kind of follow up and respond as necessary.
Well, if someone were to test positive on campus, what's the protocol for that?
Yeah, if they test positive within University Health Services, we'll notify the student and then begin the process working with the Payne County Health Department to do contact tracing to determine if there's other people that need to quarantine and isolate. For the person that tested positive, we would tell them they need to quarantine for 14 days. If they live on campus, Residential Life has a process by which we would move them to some of our quarantine spaces. We have quarantined about 300 or so quarantine spaces, both in on-campus housing, but we also worked with an off-campus hotel. So we have plenty of space for quarantining students. So we put them in quarantine, and then they would be there for 14 days. We provide them food, 3 meals a day, snacks. We'll also do their laundry if we need them to do their laundry. We have both a student affairs staff member will be in contact with them, and academic, they're from representative from academic affairs will be in touch with them to help them figure out the online options for taking classes. And so we'll do all that sort of stuff to help support them while they're in quarantine. And if they're in quarantine and positive and get sick, to help them through all that process as well. Each one of the fraternity and sorority houses have plans and processes that are similar that they're handling to go through that as well. And so we'll go through that process with fraternity and sorority houses. And then if they're off campus, anybody that's off campus, we're asking them to notify us through an online reporting process that if they test positive, so we can keep track of it. Again, so we can contact them, help them through the academic side of that. If they have any other needs, that we can help them through that as well. And so it's kind of a twofold. On campus, we have a process that we are a little bit more in control of. Off campus, because they may get tested at our urgent care or someplace else, we ask them to self-report that as well. And then we work with the Payne County Health Department with all our students, faculty, and staff on who needs quarantine, who needs to isolate in place as well.
Well, and a part of that process is keeping track of those numbers, right? And OSU launched that new dashboard. I believe it was this week.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what that all entails?
Yeah, the idea of a dashboard, obviously, is we're trying to be as transparent as possible, so people know, what are the number of cases on campus and not. The difficulty with that is we only control the tests that we administer. And so we administer through University Health Services. Those are the ones we know about and we have the most confidence in because we've administered them. We don't necessarily always know about if somebody went off campus and got a test and know if they were positive or not. And so what we tried to do, it took us a while to kind of figure out how to do that. So the dashboard says University Health Services tested this many people. We had this many positives this week. It's this, this percentage of positive rate that we have. And so that allows us to kind of just say, here's what this week looked like. We're also keeping track of those that are in our quarantine housing, because if you looked around the country, that's one of the barometers of when you run out of quarantine housing and you might need to do something else. We have about 300 beds. We have about 13 based on the most recent dashboard spaces being used. So we still have plenty. But the idea is that it provides a snapshot in time of the number of cases that we had. We also have included those students that we're aware of that are self-reported as well. So those off-campus numbers, we're able to self-report that. So it's not perfect, but it's a pretty good picture of what's going on and help us track what our progress is.
And so you mentioned those different numbers, some from University Health Services and some from other places, but all students, faculty, staff have access to the University Health Services for free COVID tests, correct?
That is correct. Yep. They can go to University Health Services, schedule time, and go get tested. And so it's really neat because we have a partnership with our on-campus diagnostics lab that helps run those. It's really been a windfall for the state that we've been able to do that here on campus. And so then it's helped us be able to expedite tests. We can get test results back in about 24 hours, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on number of tests that are administered in a day. But we can get the test back pretty quickly. It's been very, very positive. But University Health Services has done just tremendous work, gone above and beyond to be able to help us manage the testing, help us manage if somebody's positive, how do we help them be successful? How do we manage the contact tracing and all those different aspects, as well as just a leadership on what our policies and procedures should be in our Cowboys Coming Back plan and moving forward.
And your job as Vice President of Student Affairs, that's a pretty big umbrella. And as things are kind of maybe put on pause or they're going virtual, things are changing, what resources do we have available as students in terms of physical wellness and mental health?
Yeah. Well, from a mental health standpoint, we still have our counseling center is still meeting with students. Most of it's done virtually now, but still having virtual appointments. So if students need counseling, they can go and schedule appointments with our counseling center. We continued that through the spring and through the summer. And so we're kind of used to that online model now. We still do some in person if people would prefer that. We also have several opportunities to online options through our therapy assisted online TAO that you can access through our website. We have a 24-hour call number that a student anytime that needs assistance from a mental health standpoint can call that number. It's Call Sam number. We also have a good relationship with Grand Lakes, which is our community mental health through Stillwater, and so we utilize them as well. We know that during this time with COVID, with all the strife that we have in the country on racial tensions, with the elections coming up, with all the different aspects that are going on, there's a heightened level of anxiety amongst our students, and they feel it. And so we want to provide as many of those options as we can. Through our wellness department, we're doing a lot of social media and social media efforts on health education, specifically geared toward mental health and mental health awareness, as well as physical health. Colvin Center is open, so students can go exercise. It's scaled down in terms of numbers that we allow in there, and some of the activities it's more individual. We're not doing pickup basketball games and that sort of stuff, but we still have those opportunities where people can come in and exercise, because we know that's a big part of people's wellness and health. And then our health center, they're not only doing COVID testing, they're doing all the other health-related activities that they do on a normal year as well. So all those things are still in place.
And yeah, just as you said, there's so many different things that are going on this year, and everything is affecting people so differently. And especially freshmen this year in college, this is a very different year for them. So what efforts is the university making to make sure that they can still get involved and they can still create that Cowboy family atmosphere that keeps them here at OSU?
Yeah, it's not as easy, obviously, but our student organizations and our student activities groups are doing a lot virtually. So they're still meeting, they're still doing a lot of meetings, but it's virtual instead of obviously in person. We've tried to create a lot of programming done in an online format to connect students. We're still doing activities in the residence halls. Our fraternity and sorority life had very successful recruitment seasons. And so we're still being able to bring people together in smaller numbers to connect them to each other. Our academic, our colleges have a whole lot of student organizations that are directed toward their majors, and a lot, they're still happening and still going on, again, mostly in virtual settings. So we're doing a lot to connect that way, but we're doing a lot more one-on-one in the residence halls, connecting with our first-year students. First-year Success has a new initiative with a mentoring collective, mentoring program that we're using out of First-Year Success, which is connecting upper-class students with first-year students, and has had an overwhelming response from both first-year students and upper-class students want to be mentors. And so we've had a lot of those different opportunities to still connect with students. We have Leadership OSU, which is a mentoring program that we utilize. And so it's a lot more one-on-one, individual type of of opportunities, and a whole lot more virtual opportunities as well. But it's not the same, and we don't pretend it to be, but it's still connecting to the institution and still part of the college experience.
Well, and one of those ways to get connected, to get involved, is our living learning community.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big point of pride for OSU.
Mm-hmm.
So what adaptations have been made in those areas?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty similar. The nice thing about our living learning communities is they're able, they do what they say. They live and they learn together. They come together under a common purpose. And when you do that, it allows you that opportunity to create those smaller community areas that are almost like family units. And so they have a responsibility to each other. It's a little bit heightened. So, they don't spread COVID. They don't, they're wearing masks, doing all that sort of stuff, but they're still able to connect. And then you add in the other aspects of it, which is faculty involvement, staff involvement, different programming based on their certain affinity that their living and learning community is around, really provides those opportunities. So we haven't done a whole lot different other than not having the large group meetings. And if we do, we spread them out, not having some of the meals together that we've had in the past. And again, doing a lot more small group, individual connecting than some of the large community-wide, building-wide type environments. But I've been awfully proud of really all the residential life team and then all of our partners with our living learning communities to really figure out ways to make it work in this environment.
Well, it seems like through all this, pretty much anything is possible, and
Mm-hmm.
we want to keep up with the changes and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And there can be a lot of misinformation out there.
Yes.
So how are parents and students going to be officially notified
Mm-hmm.
if anything does happen to
Mm-hmm.
change on campus?
Yeah, the biggest way for really everybody to be notified is we'll notify the students through the normal student email process. So students need to check their OSU email. They need to check it early and often. Any changes we'll announce officially through that, as well as through our website and through social media channels. We do have newsletters, family newsletters that go out on occasion through a couple different areas. We have through Campus Life, but also through brand management. We send out family newsletters that will provide information as well as updates as possible. But typically, anything that's immediate, we'll send emails and we'll post it on our websites and under the COVID-19 information, and then we'll blast it out through social media as well. I'd encourage everybody. Everybody knows somebody who knows something for sure. That's usually not true. And so always, if somebody has a question, we have the COVID-19 at okstate.edu email address. They can email us. We'll answer it. We'll be honest. We'll be open. We'll tell you exactly what we know. And so if you hear something that doesn't sound right, or you haven't heard through other channels and you want to know if it's true, email us and we'll respond.
Well, these are some unprecedented times we have here, and we all have to have a lot of grace and a lot of patience through all of this. So what parting advice do you have for parents and students so we can all just make our way through this?
Yeah, I love the way you put that. Need to have grace, and I think grace with each other and grace with us as the institution. We've done a lot of things over the years. This is not one of them. And not something we've had to deal with before. As parents, and I have two daughters who have graduated college. I have a son who just started college. So, as a parent, my advice would be to acknowledge and accept the reality that this is not a normal experience. And all students are feeling some sense of loss of what they thought it was going to be like, whether that's a first year, second year, third year, graduating senior. And so acknowledging that, but also realizing that there's still a lot to what we're doing. And we can do things to keep ourselves safe and still enjoy the overall experience, and embracing the newness of it all, but being willing to talk about it and communicate about it and just be part be part of the conversation. For the students, I would say, again, have grace, have patience, and enjoy the opportunities that we have to come together, but do so in a safe manner. Wear masks. Wearing masks is not about living in fear. It's about empowering yourself to go out and engage and interact with others. And so being able to do that, social distancing. So keep your distance the best you can, especially around people you don't know. And so you don't need to engage with them that closely. So making sure you're paying attention to that as well. And the other thing I would say is ask questions. So ask questions of staff, ask questions of your faculty. If you have a concern, let us know. Like I said, we're all dealing with this together. We're all in it together. But our commitment is to be here, have as much in-person instruction as we can. We feel like that's the best environment for students to learn in. Feel it's the best environment for us all to be here and be a part of. And so we're committed to that, but it's all of our responsibility.
I love that. You hit the nail right on the head. We all just have to really, really work together through all this. We have some questions now from the audience.
Perfect.
So Pete asks, how are events being adapted to happen online?
Well, it's a lot. It depends on the event, and so and I probably don't have the best answer for all that. But we just did a virtual part-time career fair where we have these. We do it through Zoom. We have the different spaces where you can go in and meet with an employer in their Zoom room, and then you go to another Zoom room and kind of do that. We're doing all our career fairs are going to be done virtually as well, trying to connect students with employers and employers with students. And then we have other events that are just different activities, which, utilizing mostly Zoom through meetings, through different platforms, where you can maybe watch a movie, everybody watches a movie together, then you can chat about it in the chat functions, kind of go back and forth and doing that. But everybody's kind of doing a little bit differently. Everybody's kind of doing what that depends on what their program is and how they adapt it.
All right, we have a question next from Shane on ALC.
Mm-hmm.
Have the discussions yet started on what next semester will look like? Any insight?
Yeah, we have had conversations, and we don't know yet. But my insight would be it will probably look very similar to this semester. We have to, if you look at how the timing of class registration for next semester, we need to have a lot of these decisions in terms of classroom spaces, availability done relatively soon. And so if I was a betting man, I would say that we're probably going to have a very similar look to the start of the next semester as we've had this semester. We're probably still going to be requiring masks. We're still going to require social distancing. We're going to have fewer events that have large numbers. So my belief is that it would be very similar to what it is now, and that's kind of where our conversations have evolved, unless something drastically changes and our numbers across the state and across Stillwater and across the country really decline sharply, quickly, that allows us to open back up. We're going to be cautious.
All right, and last question here. Max asks, how is faculty and staff adjusting to the changes in technology?
I think overall very, very well. And if you think back to when we started in spring break, if you would have told me in February that we would have been able to go all to a virtual format in basically a week, I wouldn't have thought that was possible. We were able to do that. And so then you ramp that up, that we have a whole the rest of that semester in the summer to prepare for the fall. I think overall, everybody's adapted very, very well to it. The online learning piece, our faculty have done an outstanding job adapting their coursework when that needs to happen, to be able to do so, because everything has to have an online function. So if somebody goes into quarantine, they can still access the content and still be part of the class. And so everything has an online format, even for the in-person instructions. And so they've done extraordinarily well, some better than others. I mean, everybody has their own technology level, but we've given them a lot of tools to be able to do so. And then, the rest of us, it's, we've gotten pretty used to Zoom meetings. We've gotten pretty used to online formats. And so that's becoming easier, I think, every day.
A lot of Zooming for sure.
A
A lot of Zooming.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is all the questions that we have. So, Dr. Hallenbeck, thank you for everything that you're doing and the hard work that you and all the other faculty and staff are putting in. And thank you for taking the time to join us today.
No problem. Glad to do it. Glad to do it.
Do you have any final thoughts for our audience?
No, other than I just want to thank everybody that's out there listening, everybody that's helping us, supporting us through the process. It's not been easy. But you know what? We all, kind of the Cowboy way, came together and are figuring this out together. It's going to be different. It's not going to be the same, but it's going to be a lot closer to the normal experience than not. And so that's what we're going for. So thanks for everything everybody's doing to help us, and go Pokes.
Go Pokes. Well, you guys can watch all of our previous Friday with the Families at orangeconnection.org/webinars, along with many other educational videos. And while you're browsing, be sure to check out the Alumni Association's new membership model and claim your credit toward a life membership. You can learn more about that at orangeconnection.org/life. And thank you again for joining us today. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, wear orange, and go Pokes.